Oran had lived for 900 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched stars die and new worlds born from their ashes. In all that time, he had learned one simple truth: the universe belonged to those who waited. The patient survived. The careful endured. The reckless became dust. This was the wisdom of the Concordance, his people. They had survived for 60,000 years by watching, recording, and staying out of the way. Oran was their best observer. He had documented 17 species and predicted the fall of 6 empires. His reports filled entire archives. Today, he stood in the great chamber of Axiom Prime, the neutral station where all spacefaring species gathered to talk. The Galactic Assembly had met here for 10,000 years. They discussed, they debated, they formed committees, and mostly they did nothing at all. Oran did not mind. Doing nothing was safe. But today something was different. Today the humans had come. He watched them enter the chamber. There were only 5 of them, walking in a tight group. They moved strangely, with a kind of forward energy that made other species step back. Their eyes faced forward like predators. When they looked at you, both eyes locked on at once. It was deeply unsettling. The leader was a female called Director. She was small by human standards, with dark skin and hair cut very short. She walked like she owned every room she entered. Behind her came 4 others, 2 males, 2 females, all wearing simple gray uniforms. They were so young. Humanity had only been traveling between stars for 200 years. Most species here had been doing it for thousands. The humans were bobbies, children playing at being adults. And yet something about them made Oran uneasy. "They show their teeth," whispered a delegate from the crystalline hegemony. "Even now they show their teeth." It was true. The humans were smiling. Oran knew this was supposed to be friendly. His translator told him so. But evolution had spent millions of years teaching every species that bared teeth meant danger. His body could not forget that lesson. The assembly speaker, a massive creature from the depths of, called the session to order. The usual business began: trade disputes, border negotiations, a minor conflict in the outer systems that had killed only a few thousand beings. The humans sat quietly through all of it. Director watched everything with sharp, dark eyes. She did not speak. She did not interrupt. But Oran noticed that her hands were clenched tight under the table. Then came the final matter, the Dominion. Oran felt the mood in the chamber shift. Everyone knew about they were conquerors, destroyers. For 300 years they had been expanding, swallowing smaller species, burning worlds that resisted. The Assembly had condemned them many times. They had written strongly worded letters. They had imposed sanctions that they ignored. And now they were killing The images appeared on the central display. Cities burning, ships fleeing, bodies floating in the void of space. There were a gentle people, artists and poets who had never harmed anyone. They were wiping them out simply because they could. "This is a tragedy," said the speaker. "We must discuss our response." "We should form a committee," said one delegate. "We need more information," said another. "Perhaps diplomatic channels." They do not respond to diplomacy. We have tried for decades. Then we must try harder. Oran listened to the familiar rhythm. Talk and talk and talk. No one would do anything. No one ever did. The strong took what they wanted. The weak died. This was the way of the universe. He expected the humans to sit quietly like everyone else. He was wrong. Director stood up. The chamber fell silent. New species did not speak in the assembly. It simply was not done. There were procedures, protocols. One had to wait years to earn the right to address this body. The human did not seem to care. "How many?" she asked. Her voice was calm and clear. The speaker blinked several of its many eyes. "I beg your pardon. How many have died while we have been talking today?" No one answered. I asked a question, looked around the chamber. You have been discussing the problem for how long? 30 years, 50. How many have died in that time? These matters are complex, said a delegate. We cannot simply. Cannot simply what? Act. The human's voice did not rise, but something in it made Oran want to step back. There are children dying right now. Right now, while we sit in this beautiful room and discuss procedure. How many more will die while you form your committees? You are young, said the speaker, not unkindly. You do not understand how things work. The assembly has maintained peace for 10,000 years by doing nothing, shook her head. You have maintained your peace, your comfort. Meanwhile, entire species have been wiped out because no one would help them. What would you have us do? Asked another delegate. Go to war. They have the largest fleet in this sector. Someone has to stop them. And die in the attempt. That is not logical. The human smiled. It was not a friendly smile. No, I suppose it is not. She turned to her team and nodded. Without another word, the 5 humans walked out of the chamber. Oran watched them go. Around him, the other delegates began to whisper. Some were offended, some were amused, most simply did not care. The humans were young and foolish. They would learn or they would die. Either way, it was not the assembly's concern. But Oran could not stop thinking about the look in his eyes. He found himself following the humans. He did not know why. Perhaps it was curiosity. Perhaps it was something else. He caught up with them in the corridor outside. Director. She stopped and turned. Up close, she was even smaller than he had thought. Her head barely reached his chest. But those eyes, those predator eyes locked onto him with an intensity that made his heart beat faster. Observer Oran, she said. I read your file, you document species, you predict their rise and fall. Yes. And what do you predict for humanity? He thought carefully before answering. You are young, impulsive, you do not understand how the galaxy works. You will either learn patience or you will be destroyed. She smiled again. This time it reached her eyes. Would you like to come with us? Come with you where? To space. We are going to help them. Oran stared at her. They have 400 warships in that sector. You have perhaps 40. 37, actually. That is suicide. Probably, she shrugged. But someone has to do something, and since no one else will, it is going to be us. Why? The question burst out of him before he could stop it. Why would you die for strangers, species you have never even met? Director looked at him for a long moment. Then she said something that Oran would remember for the rest of his very long life. Because they need help, and we can help, that is all the reason we need. She turned and walked away. Her team followed. Oran stood alone in the corridor. 900 years of wisdom told him to go back to the assembly, to watch from safety, to document the foolish humans and their inevitable destruction. Instead, he found himself walking after them. He did not know it yet, but everything he believed about the universe was about to change. The human ship was called the Defiance. Oran thought this was a fitting name for a vessel flying towards certain death. He stood on the observation deck, watching the stars blur past as the ship traveled faster than light. Around him, human crew members moved with purpose. They checked weapons. They ran drills. They prepared for a battle they could not win. And they were laughing. Oran did not understand. He had seen species face extinction before. They wept. They prayed. They fell into despair. These humans were making jokes. A young officer named walked past him, grinning at something another crew member had said. Oran stopped him. You are going to die, he said, all of you. The mathematics are clear. Why are you smiling? Thought about this for a moment. Have you ever heard of gallows humor? The translator struggled with the phrase. Oran shook his head. It is when you laugh at death because crying will not change anything, shrugged. We are scared, all of us, but fear does not help anyone, so we laugh instead. We find joy where we can. It is a human thing. It is a strange thing. Maybe smiled, but it keeps us sane. Oran watched him walk away. He added another note to his observations. Humans use humor to process fear, possibly a survival mechanism, possibly madness. Further study required. The fleet gathered at the edge of controlled space, 37 ships against 400. Oran counted them twice, hoping he had made a mistake. He had not. The human vessels were not beautiful. They were blocky, practical things covered in weapons and armor. They looked like they had been designed by people who expected to be hit and planned to hit back harder. Next to the elegant curves of most galactic ships, they seemed crude, primitive. But there was something about them that made Oran uneasy. They looked like tools built for a single purpose. They looked like fists. Director called a meeting of all ship captains. Oran was allowed to attend as an observer. He sat in the corner and tried to be invisible. The plan was simple because there was no time for complex plans. The fleet would jump into space, fight through the blockade, and evacuate as many civilians as possible. Then they would retreat, fighting all the way. "Expected casualties?" asked one captain. He was an older man with gray hair and scars on his face. Did not hesitate, 60%, maybe higher. Silence fell over the room. Oran waited for the protests, for the arguments, for someone to point out that this was insane. Instead, the captain nodded. "What are our priorities?" "Civilians first. Always, we are not here to win a war, we are here to save lives. And if we cannot save them all, then we save as many as we can." Looked around the room. "I am not going to lie to you. Many of us will not come home. I cannot promise victory. I cannot promise survival. All I can promise is that what we do here matters. Those people need help. We are going to give it to them." Another captain spoke up, a young woman with red hair. "Director, permission to speak freely." "Always. I joined the fleet because I wanted to explore, see new worlds, meet new species." She paused. "I never expected to die in a war that is not even ours." Oran leaned forward. Here it was, the doubt, the fear, the moment when the humans would realize their mistake. The young captain continued, "But I have been thinking about those children, the ones in the images. They did not ask for this either. They just want to live." She straightened in her chair. "If I die so that some of them can survive, then I die for something that matters. I am ready." Around the room, other captains nodded. Some looked scared. Some looked sad, but not one of them argued. Oran felt something strange in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it. It was shame. 900 years old, and he had never once risked anything for anyone. After the meeting, he found alone in her quarters. She was looking at a small picture, a man and two children, smiling at the camera. "Your family?" he asked. "My husband, my daughters." She touched the picture gently. "They are back on Earth, waiting for me. You might never see them again." "I know." "Then why do this? Why risk everything for strangers?" "Set the picture down." She turned to face him, and for a moment she looked very tired, very human. "Let me show you something," she said. She pulled up images on her display, old images from Earth's history. Oran saw small boats crossing a dark sea, pulling soldiers from a beach. He saw aircraft dropping food on a starving city. He saw people running into a collapsing building, toward the flames, not away. "What is this?" he asked. "This is who we are," pointed at the screen. "Those boats at Dunkirk, ordinary people sailing into a war zone to save strangers. The Berlin airlift, an entire city fed by planes because no one would abandon them. And those people running into the fire, just regular humans who saw someone in trouble and could not stand by. That is illogical. They could have died." "Many of them did," smiled sadly. "But they went anyway, because that is what humans do. We see suffering and we cannot ignore it. We see someone drowning and we jump in. We see a child crying and we pick them up. It is not logical, it is not smart, but it is who we are." even for strangers. Especially for strangers, there is no courage in helping people you love. The real test is helping people you will never meet, people who cannot pay you back, people who might not even thank you. She shook her head. The universe is dark and cold and cruel, but it does not have to be. Every time someone reaches out to help another, the darkness gets a little smaller. Oran was silent for a long time. Finally, he asked, "Are you not afraid?" "Terrified," she admitted. "But fear is not a reason to do nothing. Fear is just a feeling. What matters is what you do despite the fear." An alarm sounded through the ship. They had arrived at the jump point. Stood and straightened her uniform. She looked at the picture of her family one more time. Then she turned to Oran. "You can still leave," she said. "Take an escape pod, someone will pick you up. You do not have to die with us." Oran thought about it. The wise choice was obvious. Go, survive, document what happened from a safe distance. But the image of those boats kept floating in his mind. Ordinary people sailing toward danger. Ordinary people choosing to help. "I will stay," he said. "Someone needs to record what happens here." Smiled. It was a warm smile without any teeth showing. "Then welcome to the fleet, observer. Let us go do something worth recording." The Defiance jumped too, carrying Oran toward a battle that mathematics said they could not win. For the first time in 900 years, he felt truly alive. The human fleet emerged from into hell. Prime hung in the void, burning. Great patches of the planet glowed orange where cities had once stood. Smoke clouds covered entire continents. In orbit, warships circled like predators, firing down at the surface whenever something moved. Oran counted the enemy ships, 412. He stopped counting after that. The number did not matter. What mattered was that there were too many. The commander's voice crackled through all channels. He was laughing. "Humans, I did not believe it when my scouts reported your approach. 37 ships against my fleet. You are either very brave or very stupid. I think stupid." Director's response was calm. "We are here for the civilians. Let them go, and there does not need to be a fight." More laughter. "A fight? Little human, this will not be a fight. This will be a slaughter. You are lambs walking into the den of wolves. Your species will learn today what happens to those who interfere with the Dominion." "We will see." The fleet moved to intercept. They were confident. Why would they not be? They had numbers. They had superior firepower. They had never lost a battle in 100 years. What they did not have was any understanding of what they faced. Oran watched from the Defiance's bridge as the human ships accelerated. They did not spread out like a normal fleet. They did not keep safe distances. Instead, they formed a tight wedge and drove straight at the center of the formation. "What are they doing?" he asked. A tactical officer glanced at him, getting close. "But they have longer range weapons. Staying at distance would let them pick us off one by one." The officer smiled grimly. "Up close, their big guns cannot track fast enough. Up close, it becomes a knife fight, and humans are very good at knife fights." The two fleets collided. Oran had seen battles before. He had watched them from safe distances, recording the elegant dance of ships trading fire across thousands of kilometers. This was not like that. This was chaos. This was madness. Human ships tore through the formation, firing in all directions. They took hits that should have destroyed them and kept fighting. A human destroyer lost half its hull to a plasma blast. Instead of retreating, it rammed the ship that had shot it, both vessels exploding in a ball of fire. They were not prepared for this. They fought to win. They fought to survive. The humans fought like they did not care if they lived or died. "They are insane," whispered a voice on the open channel. "They are completely insane." On the planet below, humans screamed through the atmosphere. They landed in burning cities, under fire from ground forces. Soldiers poured out, not to fight, but to save. They carried wounded to safety. They shielded children with their own bodies. They gave their oxygen masks to elderly aliens who could not breathe the smoke-filled air. Oran watched a human soldier pick up a child who had lost her family. The soldier was wounded, bleeding from a gash on his head. He did not seem to notice. He just held the child close and ran toward the evacuation point, whispering words of comfort that his translator could not quite catch. In orbit, the battle raged on. A human frigate called the Alamo broke formation. Oran watched it on the tactical display, confused. It was moving away from the fight, toward a group of civilian transports trying to escape. Then he saw the dreadnought turning its weapon toward those transports. "No," he said quietly. The Alamo positioned itself between the dreadnought and the civilians. It was a small ship facing a vessel 10 times its size. There was no way it could win. It did not try to win. The dreadnought fired. The Alamo took the blast head-on. Shields failed. Hull breached. The ship came apart in sections, crew members spilling into the void. But the transports escaped. 2,000 civilians, mostly children, survived because one small ship and its crew chose to die for them. Oran found himself gripping the railing so hard his hands hurt. He had seen sacrifice before, but never like this. Never so willing, never so absolute. Around the planet, the pattern repeated. Human ships throwing themselves into impossible situations. Human soldiers dying to buy time for strangers. Human pilots ejecting from destroyed fighters and still firing their personal weapons at passing enemies. The commander's voice had lost its laughter. Why will they not break? Why will they not run? No one answered him. There was no answer that would make sense to a species that had never known this kind of madness. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 23 human ships were destroyed, more than half the fleet gone, thousands of humans dead. But 1.2 million were safely away, carried by the surviving ships to neutral space. And the fleet, which had expected an easy victory, had lost 47 ships. They had never taken losses like that. They did not know how to process it. They did not pursue. On the Defiance, Oran helped carry wounded humans to the medical bay. He was not trained for this. He did not know what he was doing, but there were not enough hands, so he helped anyway. A young human woman lay on a stretcher, her legs crushed in an explosion. She was awake, tears streaming down her face, but she was not crying for herself. "Did we get them out?" she asked. "The civilians, did we save them?" "Yes," Oran told her, "you saved them." She smiled through her tears. "Good, that is good." Then she closed her eyes. Oran stood there for a long time looking at her face. She was so young. She should have had decades of life ahead of her. Instead, she had given everything for people she had never met. He did not understand. He was not sure he ever would. But for the first time in 900 years, Oran wished he was human. He wished he was part of a species that could look at suffering and choose to fight it, even if fighting meant death. The Defiance limped toward neutral space, carrying its cargo of survivors and wounded. Behind them, Prime still burned. But somewhere in that darkness, millions of people were alive who should have been dead. Because 37 human ships had chosen to care, the news spread across the galaxy like fire. In 1,000 different languages, on 1,000,000 different worlds, beings watched the recordings. They saw human ships charging into impossible odds. They saw soldiers carrying children through burning streets. They saw a small frigate die so that strangers could live. The galaxy had not seen anything like this in 10,000 years. Oran sat in the medical bay of the Defiance, helping where he could. There was not much he could do. He could not heal wounds. He could not bring back the dead, but he could hold hands. He could bring water. He could listen. A human soldier named lay in a bed nearby, his chest wrapped in bandages. He had taken 3 shots protecting a family. The doctors said he would live, but it had been close. Oran brought him water. "You should rest." Shook his head. Cannot sleep, keep seeing their faces, the people we could not save. You saved over 1 million. And lost how many more? The soldiers stared at the ceiling. There were so many we could not reach in time. Oran did not know what to say. He had spent 900 years observing tragedy from a safe distance. He had never learned how to comfort someone who had lived through it. The ones you saved will remember, he finally said. Their children will remember. You gave them a future. Was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I hope that is enough. On the Defiance's bridge, director was dealing with the aftermath. The Galactic Assembly had sent 17 emergency messages. Some demanded explanations. Some offered condolences. A few, very few, offered help. The Dominion sent something else entirely. The message arrived on all channels, broadcast for the entire galaxy to hear. The High Commander himself appeared on screen, his face twisted with rage. Humans, he spat the word like poison. You have made a terrible mistake. You have humiliated the Dominion. You have killed our warriors. For this, there can be only one response. We will come for you. We will burn your worlds. We will wipe your species from existence. You have days, not years. Prepare to die. The message ended. On the bridge, no one spoke. Oran watched the crew's faces. He expected fear. He expected panic. After all, they had just survived a battle that cost them half their fleet. They were tired, wounded, grieving. Instead, he saw something else. He saw jaws tighten. He saw backs straighten. He saw a kind of cold, quiet fury that made his skin crawl. Director turned to her communications officer. Put me on all channels. Same broadcast range as the message. Yes, Director. She stood in front of the camera. The exhaustion was visible on her face. The weight of all those deaths pressed down on her shoulders, but her voice, when she spoke, was steady as stone. This is Director of the United Earth Systems, speaking to the Dominion and to anyone else who is listening. She paused, letting the silence stretch. You call us aggressors. You threaten to destroy us. For what? For saving civilians you were murdering. For protecting children you were burning. Her eyes hardened. Let me tell you something about humanity. We have been fighting wars since before we could write. We have killed each other with sticks and stones and swords and bombs. We have burned our own cities and rebuilt them from ash. We have survived plagues, famines, ice ages, and nuclear weapons. We are still here. She leaned forward, and suddenly she did not look tired anymore. She looked dangerous. You think you know war. You have been playing at conquest for 300 years. We have been practicing for 10,000. You have seen 40 of our ships. We have 4,000 more. And every single human who watched your soldiers kill children is now volunteering to fight. She smiled, and it was not a friendly smile at all. So come find out why humanity survived when so many species did not. Come learn why we have 100 words for war and 1,000 songs about it. Come discover what happens when you give us something worth fighting for. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. We will be waiting. The broadcast ended. Oran realized he had stopped breathing. Around him, the human crew was quiet, but it was not a scared quiet. It was the quiet of people who had made a decision and were at peace with it. In the days that followed, something remarkable happened. Ships began arriving from across the galaxy. Not many at first. A single vessel from the crystalline hegemony carrying medical supplies. A merchant convoy from the trader clans offering fuel and food. A small warship from a species no one had ever heard of, its captain saying simply, "We saw what you did. We want to help." Then more came, and more. Species that had been neutral for centuries sent messages of support. Worlds that had lived in fear of the began to whisper about resistance. Within the Dominion itself, enslaved populations started asking dangerous questions. If the humans could fight back, why could they not? Oran watched it all with growing amazement. The humans had not just fought a battle, they had lit a spark, and that spark was becoming a fire. The Galactic Assembly called an emergency session. For the first time in its history, the session was about action, not discussion. "We have a choice," said the Speaker of the Assembly. "We can stand with humanity, or we can watch them fight alone. We can risk everything, or we can wait for them to come for us next." The great creature paused. "What do we choose?" The vote was not even close. By the end of the day, 47 species had pledged ships, soldiers, and resources to the defense of humanity. More were joining every hour. Oran sat alone in his quarters that night trying to write his report. He had been documenting species for 900 years. He had always been objective, detached, scientific. But how could he be detached about this? The humans had done the impossible, not with superior weapons or numbers or strategy. They had done it with something much simpler and much more powerful. They had cared. And somehow, impossibly, they had made the rest of the galaxy start caring too. His communicator buzzed. It was Director. "Observer, we are receiving reports from inside the Dominion. There are uprisings on 3 of their slave worlds. The people there saw what we did. They are fighting back." Oran closed his eyes. "They will crush them." "Maybe, maybe not." His voice was quiet. "But they are trying. For the first time in generations, they believe they can win. We gave them that." "You gave them hope." "We gave them an example." He could hear the sad smile in her voice. "That is all we ever wanted, to show people that fighting back is possible, that someone will stand with them." Oran looked at his empty report. Then he began to write. Not an observation this time, a testament. To the species that taught the galaxy to hope. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Prime. Oran stood in a garden on the station called Unity, watching delegates from 100 worlds gather for the signing ceremony. Flowers from a dozen planets bloomed around him. The air smelled of peace. The Dominion was gone. Not conquered, not destroyed in the way that had destroyed so many others. Instead, it had collapsed from within. The slave uprising had spread from 3 worlds to 30, then to 300. Species that had served the Dominion for generations suddenly remembered that they outnumbered their masters. When the fleet finally came for humanity, they found something unexpected waiting for them. Not just human ships, but vessels from across the galaxy. The crystalline hegemony, the traitor clans, a dozen species that had never fought a war in their history, all standing together. The High Commander had looked at that fleet and understood. He was not facing humanity. He was facing something new, something that had never existed before. A galaxy that had learned to say enough. The war lasted 3 months. It ended not with the destruction of but with their surrender. The humans had insisted on that. No genocide, no revenge, just an end to the killing. Some species did not understand this. "They would have wiped you out," said a delegate from the depths. "Why show mercy?" Director had given the answer. "Because mercy is what separates us from them. We fight to protect, not to destroy. If we become what we fight against, we have already lost." Now, on the anniversary of the battle, the Compact of Prime was being signed. A new alliance, a new promise. Over 60 species agreeing to stand together, to protect each other, to never again let a people face destruction alone. And leading them, impossibly, were the humans, the children, the newcomers who had been in space for only 200 years. Oran found Director standing alone on a balcony overlooking the garden. She looked older than she had a year ago. The gray in her hair had spread. The lines around her eyes had deepened. She had attended too many funerals. "Director." She turned and smiled. A real smile, tired but warm. "Observer, I was hopping to see you. Today should be a day of celebration for you." "It is." She looked out at the gathering below. "But I keep thinking about the ones who are not here. The crews of the ships we lost. The soldiers who died in the burning cities." She paused. "The ones who gave everything so this day could happen." Oran nodded. He understood. In his 900 years, he had never understood loss. Now he did. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Always. A year ago, I asked you why. Why risk everything for strangers? You told me it was because you could help, but I have been thinking about it ever since, and I still do not fully understand." Was quiet for a moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. She activated it, and a child's drawing appeared in the air between them. The drawing showed a crude figure in human clothes carrying a smaller figure with the delicate wings of a child. Above them, a yellow sun shone. Below them, written in shaky letters in Universal Standard, were 3 words. "Thank you for coming." "Her name is Sella," said softly. "She was 7 years old when our soldiers found her in the ruins. She had been hiding for 3 days. Her whole family was gone. One of my soldiers, a woman named, carried her to the evacuation ship. Died 2 days later defending a transport." Oran stared at the drawing. "This child sent you this?" "She sends me one every week. Different pictures, same message." Eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Every week I am reminded of why we went, why we fight, why any of it matters." She turned off the device and looked at him directly. "You asked if it was worth it, the ships we lost, the people who died, the families that will never be whole again." She took a deep breath. "Yes, it was worth it, because somewhere out there a little girl is drawing pictures instead of being dead, because millions of people have futures they would not have had, because the galaxy learned that cruelty is not the only way. One life cannot be worth so many." "It is not about numbers." She shook her head. "It is never about numbers. Every single life matters. If we forget that, if we start calculating who is worth saving and who is not, we have already become the monsters." Knew that. Every person we lost knew that. They did not die for a million strangers. They died for each one, for each child, for each family, for each future. Oran felt something shifting in his chest. A crack in the wall he had built around his hearts over 9 centuries. "I have watched species for a very long time," he said slowly. "I have seen empires and extinctions. I thought I understood how the universe worked. The strong take, the weak die. Survival is all that matters. And now I am not so sure." He looked at the garden below, at the delegates laughing and talking, at species that had been strangers now standing together. "You have changed things, not just politics, something deeper." Smiled. "We just reminded everyone of something they had forgotten, that kindness is not weakness, that helping others is not foolish, that the darkness only wins if we let it." The ceremony was about to begin. Delegates were taking their seats. History was about to be made. "I have to go," said, "but observer, one last thing." "Yes." "Stop observing, start living." She touched his arm gently. 900 years is a long time to watch from the edges. Maybe it is time to step in." She walked away, leaving him alone on the balcony. That night, after the ceremony, after the celebrations, after the galaxy had formally declared that it would never again stand by while innocence burned, Oran sat down to write his final report. He had been an observer his whole life, objective, detached, never getting involved. His reports were famous for their cold precision. This one would be different. He began to write. To the archives of the Concordance. From Observer Oran, 917 years of service. Subject: humanity. I have studied predators and conquerors. I have documented plagues and tyrants. I believed I understood threat assessment. I believed I knew what made a species dangerous. I was wrong. Humanity is not dangerous because of their weapons, though their weapons are powerful. They are not dangerous because of their numbers, though their numbers are growing. They are not dangerous because of their technology or their tactics or their rage. Humanity is dangerous because they cannot watch suffering and do nothing. They will charge into fire for strangers. They will die for people they have never met. They will stand against impossible odds because someone needs help, and no one else will go. They called them lambs. They were wrong. The old powers of this galaxy have survived by being careful, by avoiding conflict, by watching from safe distances while others burned. We thought this was wisdom. Humanity has shown us it was cowardice. They fight not for territory or resources or power. They fight because a child is crying, because a city is burning, because somewhere someone is saying please help and no one else is listening. The cosmos should fear their might, not because humanity seeks war, but because when they find a war worth fighting, they will never stop, not when they are outnumbered, not when victory seems impossible. They will keep fighting until every last person is saved, or until every last human is dead. And somehow, impossibly, they will make you want to fight beside them. I have been an observer for 900 years, watching, recording, never getting involved. I am done observing. If humanity has taught me anything, it is that some things are worth fighting for, and I would rather die standing with them than live another 900 years watching from the edges. This is my final report. End observation. Oran saved the file and stood up. Through the window he could see human ships in the distance, already preparing for the next mission, the next crisis, the next people who needed help. He had a choice. He could go back to the Concordance, resume his life of safety and distance and cold observation. Or he could do what the humans did. He could help. The choice was easier than he expected. Perhaps it had never really been a choice at all. Oran walked out of his quarters and headed toward the human fleet, leaving 900 years of caution behind him. The universe was dark and cold and full of suffering. But somewhere out there, humanity was fighting to change that. And for the first time in his very long life, Oran was going to fight beside them.